Welcome back and thank you for choosing to stay with us. We continue here. 2 suspects have been killed during a shootout with police in Mzomusha area in Inanda in KwaZulu-Natal. The 2, aged 20 and 25 years, were located through a drone. Police say a shootout ensued when they approached the suspects in a house where they were hiding. The men are allegedly linked to several murder and attempted murder cases. They were also found in possession of 2 firearms. Police say 3 other suspects linked to them are still at large.
So as you can see, the forensics team as well as the crime scene investigators have concluded their work. They are now leaving the crime scene, the hideout, but of course also making way for the pathology van that is now just driving towards this very same spot where we are. So they are responsible for collecting the bodies of the both suspects that were shot and killed. We do know that these suspects were actually linked to several murder cases as well as those of attempted murder. So we'll just see the team from the pathology over there. Really, we can see they are still just trying to dress up and preparing themselves for the scene. We can also expect to see now these bodies actually being taken out of the hideout and into that van, then obviously proceed to the mortuary. So those are the scenes here currently in Inanda, and it follows a fatal shootout between police officials as well as 2 of those suspects. For Newzroom Afrika on Channel 405, I'm Pilam Tembu in Inanda.
Now, taxi operations in parts of Cape Town were brought to a halt for several hours today after members of the Cape Amalgamated Taxi Association staged a protest against what they described as years of intimidation, extortion and violence within the industry. The association accuses one of its members of terrorizing taxi operators along the seawater route, allegedly extorting money, orchestrating murders of executives and being linked to the torching of minibus taxis at the Nyanga taxi rank. Members marched to the Nyanga Police station demanding that police urgently investigate. Nyanga Community Policing Forum Secretary Dumisani Qwebe joins us now live for more on this particular conversation. Dumisani, thank you very much for your time this evening. Just describe to us what the situation is like this evening, given that commuters were left stranded today as a result of that strike.
Good evening to you. Yes, indeed, we had some strike today where the taxi operators were marching to Nyanga Police Station for claiming that they have got their own member who terrorizing them and extorting them, and they want the justice to be done for them. For now, the situation is cool and calm and is operationally as normally, and yet they have given Nyanga Police Station 7 days to respond on their grievances, of which we think that it needs a collaborative approach to address the issue of the taxi industry. Not only subs, also the commuters have to play that role to ensure that we are in a safer environment, especially when going to the taxi industry. People are getting a fearing of their life when they go there because of what is always happening there. But we will make sure that we work with subs to ensure there is a better solution in terms of addressing the taxi industry problems.
Yeah, this is not the first time that an incident of torching of minibus taxis has occurred. A similar one was reported last year, but it seems as though there really is no end in sight, and this is contributing to the rising tensions in the taxi industry in that part.
Yes, indeed, it is. What I can say is that they have said themselves that there is an internal fight among themselves that needs to be addressed. And we are also calling upon to government entities, whenever they are starting their negotiations with the taxi industry, they must never leave behind the community that is affected, because these issues, when they get out of control, the people are the victims are the community members who are using that transport, who are not a part of the negotiations when they're in the table. But when there's a problem of this nature, we get affected. We want to be part of the solution in addressing these issues. Remember, those people who are owning the taxi are our brothers, our sisters, our uncles, our aunties, that we can speak to them and see how can we better the working relationship between us and them so that we can't be in the same situation where someone will be fearing of going to the taxi industry, even themselves not unknowing whether when they go to the taxi industry, they will be or they will not be safe. So we want to work together so that it doesn't happen again.
Yeah. Today there was a reported high presence of police, signaling that they also are quite concerned about the developments, particularly with the rising tensions there. Talk to us about whether or not, commuters who were left stranded feel safe in light of these developments and these clashes or disputes, rather, that have been taking place for a couple of years now.
Yes, indeed. In this morning, there was one of the old ladies who was traveling with a golden arrow bus who was stoned, on which we don't know who did it. It also affected them a lot. But what we can say is that for SARS to deploy more forces when there is a problem, it's just a temporary solution. It doesn't help a lot. What is needed is an integrated approach in ensuring that we work together to resolve these problems without waiting for any strike again or any incident of this nature happened, so that we can start to say we are reacting. We don't have to react. We need to be proactive in addressing these issues. And one thing that we need to request from the taxi industry is that we need to have some monthly meetings where we can start to build up a partnership or a relation that will work for us.
Yeah, let's look at this collaborative approach that you speak about. Do you think that previous initiatives or interventions yielded any result? I mean, we're seeing right now a similar incident that happened compared to what happened, which is quite similar rather to what happened last year. So my question is whether or not there are any interventions that have yielded results, that have shown positive change in the past that can still be used in this particular regard, and what else can be, those interventions?
The involvement of the community in these processes can play a big role in terms of ensuring the stability within the taxi industry. Secondly, in today's March, there were some allegations of the case that was opened and is not yet investigated. However, if it is so, our role as CPF is to ensure that between SAPS and the community, the trust and the confidence in terms of the justice. We request that those things, we need to follow them up to ensure that the cases are being attended to, so that we can't have someone blaming one another. We need to work hand in hand to ensure that we're in a better society. Government entities must never discuss things alone, leaving the community behind, because we need to have some ideas that we can put on table and see how can we better the taxi industry, rather than sitting in their corner, leaving the community behind. Still going to be a problem.
Yeah, previously there were suggestions of CCTV footage or CCTV cameras being installed around the taxi rank, which will, of course, be able to establish and capture whether when incidents of arson are being undertaken at that particular taxi rank. Do you think there's been any willingness to go towards that route in order, of course, to curb the arson attacks that we've been seeing there?
If you can be nearby Nyanga taxi rank, there is a camera that is not even 5 meters away from the taxi rank. We don't know whether it's working or not. That camera, if it's functional, it could be helpful in identifying who are the perpetrators of this criminal activities. If it's not working, how can you make sure that it's working? Because the city of Cape Town always say that there are cameras in Nyanga, of which at some point we find that are not working. We want to say to them, come to us, and we review if these cameras are working, so that if they are working, it can be easy for the investigating officers to go and get the footage. But if they're not working, how can we make them working so that we can't have the similar problems that have been in the taxi industry? Remember, in that taxi industry, we have got more than 1,000 people who are standing there queuing there in the mornings for the taxi. So those incidents, if they happen in that nature, they will be the victims.
Yeah, the drivers have given the Nyanga Police Station 7 days to respond to their memorandum. Does this leave the commuters feeling uncertain about the future that lies ahead?
Not yet now for now, because what we need to do as Nyanga CPF is to sit down and with the Nyanga station management to see how can we unpack those grievances and see do they all fall under SAP's door or the other departments who needs to be invited so that we can resolve the problem immediately. Yes, 7 days. It can be like a long days, but it's just only 2 days left now to finish that 7 days. We need to sit down as soon as possible to see how can we address it. And we need to invite the taxi industry executive to say, here's the outcomes of the grievances. It's what will be taken from now going forward to ensure that there is stability within the taxi rank.
Yeah, there is also the, reports of somebody who was speaking on behalf of the police station saying that while the operators are complaining about little intervention and no investigation, there seems to also not be any cooperation from the drivers themselves in relation to what happened last Friday, saying that some did not even want to give statements. They did not, in fact, have statements regarding the incident.
Yes, indeed. That's why I was saying if we can just look at the grievances that was handed over today and see what we can do for the future. One thing that we need to do is to build a relationship between SAPS and the taxi industry so that there can be a trust between those two parties. So for them to be able to go and open the case and witness so that we can't be blaming one another to say, yes, there's a case, but there's no one willing to come forward. How can we then ensure that if they open the case and the witnesses are protected, we need to look at those things so that we can't have the similar case where a witness go and witness after they get shot. So we need to be strategic in making sure that we deal with those issues.
Why is there a lack of trust between members of the taxi associations and the police?
If you heard clearly on one of the speakers that was speaking today, has allegedly implicated some of the police officers who are involved in criminal activities towards the taxi industry. Now it needs a strategic approach to say to them, no, it's not the way that you think. Now it's a better way of doing things. In order for SAPS to be trusted, we need to go to them and say, this is the way that we need to take from now moving forward. Then we deal with those that are being implicated in these cases.
Yeah, and what's the way forward? In the meantime, what's the way forward in regards to commuters being able to get to different destinations? Do you know?
For now, the taxi are back normally, but what is needed for us is the civilians. We need to go for now to our brothers in the taxi industry to sit down with them and say to them, yes, you did much, and this is the way that we think if we can work together in this route, we can be able to achieve or address these problems that you are facing so that we can't have our commuters again left stranded in this situation of today.
All right. Dumisani Qwebe is the Nyanga Community Policing Forum Secretary, talking to us about that taxi strike that left commuters stranded today, talking about a multidisciplinary approach in order to, of course, build not only a way forward, but also trust between the taxi associations as well as the police officers.